Good evening. Welcome to the Durham Planning Commission. The members of the Durham Planning Commission are appointed by the City Council and the County Board of Commissioners to make recommendations to the elected officials. We emphasize that the elected officials have the final say on the issues before us tonight. While this meeting is being conducted in person, it is also accessible using the Zoom virtual platform. In the virtual meeting platform, public participants do not have the ability to talk or be seen on video by default. In order to maintain meeting decorum and a discernible record of the meeting, the chat function has been disabled. For those attending in person, if you plan on speaking on an agenda item tonight, please go to the table to my left and sign up to speak. When speaking, please state your name and your address clearly when you come to the podium. Please speak directly into the microphone. If you are attending the meeting virtually, you will be given the ability to speak at the appropriate time. If you have pre-registered, your name will be called so you can make your comments just like an in-person public hearing. You may also call in during the meeting tonight by dialing 1-301-715-8592. If you call in during the meeting, you will need to wait until the particular public hearing you are interested in starts. After all of the pre-registered speakers have shared their comments, I will ask if there is anyone else wishing to speak. At that point, you will need to digitally raise your hand by pressing *9 on your phone. And when recognized, state your name and address before making comments. The applicant has a total of 10 minutes for a presentation. Each speaker after the applicant will have 2 minutes to speak. Commissioner, we have 5 cases and 1 text amendment case. So we're going to go with 5 minutes per commissioner tonight for Q&A. Remember, you will be called upon only to speak a second time after all of the other commissioners have spoken for the first time. Please have your thoughts and questions organized. Commissioner, as a reminder, after the public hearing is closed, you obtain the floor by being recognized by the chair. Commission members, please remember you shared this time with your fellow commissioners. Keep your comments and questions pithy, and please don't repeat topics that have already been discussed or questioned. The time to make public statements is before motions are made. Once a motion is on the floor, and further discussion regarding that motion must come after a second. All motions are stated in the affirmative, so if a motion fails or ties, the recommendation is for denial. Commissioners, if you are not ready to move a case forward, please indicate as such when questioned. Finally, I ask that everyone here and on the Zoom, the commission members, the staff, and the public conduct themselves in a courteous and respectful manner. If someone fails to act in that manner, the chair will ask the offending person or persons to leave the room or to be muted on Zoom until such time they regain personal control. If decorum fails to be restored, the chair will recess the meeting until a genuine commitment to act respectful and courteous is observed. After the case you are here for ends, please be courteous and leave this room quietly wait until you have exited this room to have your post-case discussions as the commission continues to have remaining business on the agenda. Thank you. May we have the roll call vote? Roll call, please. Not roll call vote. Roll call. Attendance.
Thank you. Chair Cameron?
Here.
Vice Chair Shigaris?
Here.
And Commissioner Capers?
Here.
And welcome, by the way. Commissioner Cutright?
Here.
Commissioner Chakowski?
Here.
Commissioner Gregory? Commissioner Wynn? Commissioner Kopak?
Here, and I have to say that scissor reel was pretty nice.
Say what?
The scissor reel introduction was pretty nice, whoever put that together.
Commissioner McIver?
Here.
Commissioner Piontek?
Here.
Commissioner Williams? And Commissioner Woke?
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Adjustments to the agenda. After the approval of the minutes, we're going to move new business up to take care of that very quickly. Next, we'll have item number 4 on the agenda, which is the approval of the minutes and the consistency statement from the February 11th, 2025 meeting. Do we have a motion for approval?
So move.
There's second.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Cutright, seconded by Commissioner Kopak to approve the minutes and consistency statements. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. Next, we're going to move, before we move on to any other business, I would like for our new commissioner to introduce himself very quickly. Welcome, Commissioner Harper, right?
Hi, good evening, everyone. Henry Capers, thank you for having me. I love the city of Durham, and I'm so grateful to be able to serve in this capacity. I look forward to doing the very best that I can to continue to help the city grow and flourish. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on, we're moving up new business on the agenda. It's fiscal year 26 Planning Department Work Program.
Andy, you're a little bit tall. Just a little bit. Good evening, everyone. Commissioners, I'm Grace Smith, one of the assistant directors with the Planning Department. It's good to see you again, some of you. Haven't seen you in a while. So as you may have seen from the memo and the work program that's included with this item, the department's work program focuses mainly on 3 areas. Ongoing projects and processes that reflect legal requirements such as site plans, zoning map changes, use permits, and certificates of appropriateness and zoning enforcement actions. Those are just some examples. Ongoing projects and processes that relate to city and county policies for providing timely public information, like supports for the boards and commissions and department management. And another area is projects and processes that are somewhat discretionary, like long-range planning activities to implement action items from the comprehensive plan and other large projects. For example, the Unified Development Ordinance UDO rewrite that's underway now. So the majority of the planning department's work is dictated by state and local law. That's those buckets of things that we have to do, that we're required to do by law. The main area of variability in the work program is the work completed by the community planning and strategic support work groups. For this coming fiscal year, the main policy planning emphasis on and our resource allocation will focus on the rewrite of the UDO, which I think you've heard about. In addition, we will work on a variety of other projects as an outgrowth of our comprehensive plan, including but not limited to some small area plans, environmental plans, open space plans, corridor plans, and other studies that you can see on pages 4 through 7 and 23 and through 24 of the document. So this is, I'll just add that for the ones of you that haven't seen this before, this item comes to you once a year, typically about this time of year. And we, the next step would be to take this work program to the Joint City-County Planning Committee, and then it will be presented to both governing bodies, City Council and Board of County Commissioners, for final action. The JCCPC, our Joint City-County Planning Committee, has, we did have a brief discussion with them about the direction we were headed, but that won't officially go back to them for their recommendation until it's had a recommendation from you. So we asked that the Planning Commission make a recommendation on this item this evening, and typically it's just done through a motion for a favorable recommendation to move it forward. And so we're here if you have any questions about any of the items that you saw in the work program. It may look a little different. We did change it over the last couple of years. It looks a little different for the ones of you that have been on the commission for a while. So the formatting anyway is what I'm speaking to. So.
Thank you. Any questions? No questions? None. Thank you, Grace.
Okay, thank you. We just need to get the recommendation to move it forward and a vote on that as
We
well.
need a recommendation
We do.
to move forward on the work program?
Yes.
Okay. May I have a recommendation to move forward on the work program?
Sorry.
But, I think you can do a consensus like you do for minutes.
Okay.
Be fine.
This is just for clarity.
Move it forward, a favorable recommendation to move it forward as presented.
Got it. You know what? Chair, as it relates to fiscal year 26 work program, make a recommendation that we move this forward to the joint city and
Just the governing bodies, so,
just all the governing bodies.
yeah.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Cutright and seconded by Chair Shigaris to move the fiscal year 26 Planning Department work program forward to the governing bodies. Are there any questions? Are you ready for the question? Any discussion? Okay. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Are we ready to move the cases forward in order, or do we want to take the one that has a continuance first? Get it out the way. Yes, okay. We're going to, again, adjust the agenda and go to public hearing zoning map change Z2400022 Durham Rescue Mission East Main Street. May we have the staff come up, please?
Thank you, Chair Cameron. Staff would like to state that the required second neighborhood meeting held on March 9, 2025 did not meet the neighborhood guidelines. The applicant informed staff that they were technical difficulties to start their meeting. That resulted in the advertised 6 p.m. meeting to start at 6:50 p.m. Because of that, staff requests the case to be continued to the April 8, 2025 Planning Commission meeting in order to conduct a second neighborhood meeting that meets our guidelines. And staff and the applicant are here for any additional clarity or questions.
All right, thank you. Yes, go ahead.
Move forward. Chair, as it relates to case Z2400022 Durham Rescue Mission East Main Street, I make a recommendation that we postpone this case until the April meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Cutright and seconded by Commissioner Kopak to move case Z2400022 Durham Rescue Mission East Main Street forward to the April 8th, 2025 meeting. May we have the roll call vote, please?
Chair Cameron,
Yes.
Vice Chair Shigaris,
Yes.
Commissioner Capers, Commissioner Cutright,
Yes.
Commissioner Chakowski,
Yes.
Commissioner Kopak,
Yes.
Commissioner McIver,
Yes.
Commissioner Piontek,
Yes.
and Commissioner Woke.
Yes.
It passes.
Thank you. All right, we are going back on track to public hearings, text amendments. Item number 5 on the agenda. The first case we have is TC 240003 Statutory Development Agreement Amendment. Are we ready? May we have staff report, please? Sorry, I forgot those words.
Good evening. My name is Robin Schultz with the Planning Department. Before I begin, staff would like to state for the record that all Planning Department hearing items have been advertised and noticed in accordance with state and local law, and affidavits of all of those notices are on file in the Planning Department. So I am here to present on TC 24000003, which is a privately initiated text amendment. This text amendment seeks to amend Section 3.26 of the Unified Development Ordinance, which governs statutory development agreements. So statutory development agreements are entered into between the city or county and an applicant. These agreements are intended to provide flexibility outside of traditional zoning processes. So this text amendment is seeking to provide additional flexibility within those agreements by allowing alterations within UDO Section 8.3 tree protection and tree coverage to be included as a part of those agreements. Note the statutory development agreements are legislative decisions and are therefore subject to a public hearing. Each agreement would be subject to the discretion of the appropriate governing body. And lastly, this request is concurrent with case Z2400027, Page Corners, which is a zoning map change with an associated statutory development agreement. Both staff and the applicant are available for any questions.
Thank you. Is the applicant ready? So at this time, the chair is opening the public hearing, and the applicant is going to present.
Good evening, Chairwoman Cameron, Vice Chair Shigeros, members of the Planning Commission. I'm Patrick Biker. I live at 2614 Stewart Drive. I'm an attorney with Morningstar Law Group, and along with Tim Sivers, the president of CUNITY, I'm here tonight representing Lincoln Avenue Communities. We are here in support of this text amendment, which in turn supports the next agenda item by creating greater flexibility for the use of development agreements in Durham. The next agenda item relates to Page Corners, a 160-unit apartment development that will be 100% affordable to persons earning up to 60% of our area median income. To that end, the Planning Commission will consider this evening what will be the third development agreement in the history of Durham, if we are fortunate enough to receive approval. In regard to this agenda item relating to this text amendment, UDO Section 3.26.6.B.3 states, quote, a development agreement shall not reduce environmental requirements within Article 4 zoning districts and Article 8 environmental protection, unquote. For the first two development agreements, this limitation was not an issue. The first development agreement that the City Council unanimously approved on October 19, 2020, was to support a low-income housing tax credit funded 82-unit apartment complex on Crescent Drive in Southwest Durham in the compact neighborhood tier. About 2.5 years later, on March 20, 2023, the City Council unanimously approved the second development agreement so that a market-rate apartment development on Chapel Hill Boulevard would provide the gap financing for 66 apartments funded with a low-income housing tax credit in Bragtown. Those 66 apartments are within a mixed-income development in Bragtown containing approximately 134 acres. Now this evening, almost exactly 2 years after the second development agreement, our proposed text amendment is necessary to address smaller sites within the suburban tier. And I think that represents the majority of the potential sites for affordable housing in Durham. Our proposed text amendment states, quote, a development agreement shall not reduce environmental requirements within Article 4 zoning districts and Article 8 environmental protection, with the exception of Section 8.3 tree protection and tree coverage. We hope the Planning Commission will recommend approval of this text amendment since it will support affordable housing for smaller infill sites in the suburban tier. In closing, I want to thank the Planning Department, especially our Director, Sarah Young, and our point person, Robin Schultz, for their assistance with our application. Tim and I will be happy to try and answer any questions. We appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a sign-in sheet for this? Thank you. No one but the applicant. Do we have anyone on Zoom that has signed up to speak on this? No one? Going, yes, sir. Please come to the podium, state your name and your address, and then you can have the question.
Yeah, my name is Matt Lissack. I live at 203 Old Castle, and I attended the whatever you call the previous meeting where you guys met with the neighborhood people, and in that meeting it was very evident that there was supposed to be a buffer between you guys, and you guys were saying it was AT&T, but it could actually be Frontier. It's the actual buffer because there's a small building there in between you guys and AT&T that says Frontier on it.
Okay.
And so that wasn't very evident here about that buffer.
Yeah, so this is for the text amendment, which is associated with that case, but that case is actually going to come next. So I think that you're actually going to have questions for that portion.
Okay, fair enough.
Not to shoo you off, but
Thank you. Is there anyone that would like to speak here that would like to speak on the text amendment? All right, hearing none, I am going to close the public hearing. We're now open for commissioner discussion and questions. Any? No. Commissioner Cutright.
Thanks, Chair. Just a quick clarifying question. For some reason, I don't see the text in here, but basically it states that environmental protections will not be reduced with the exception of tree protection and tree coverage. Is there any more specificity to that? Like to what extent, or is this just a blanket? We just won't abide by that particular clause.
It simply allows this issue of tree protection, tree coverage to be on the table when a development agreement is negotiated between the city of Durham and a private party. So it could be right now you can't even have a 1% reduction. So it could be a 1% reduction, could be a 10% reduction. The challenge, Commissioner Cutright, is that the standards for tree protection, tree coverage vary so much between the tiers. So in the suburban tier, it's 20%, but in the compact and the urban tiers, it's only 7%. So to be brutally honest, if our project were in the urban tier or the compact tier, we wouldn't be asking for this text amendment.
Got it. Whose discretion is it to say how much tree protection is needed on the particular project that comes before the staff with a joint development agreement?
yeah, so right now, if you come with a project, you have to meet every standard in section 8.3.
Yep.
And so this is saying that if you do a statutory development agreement, that you goes through a legislative process, so it goes before you all, and then it goes before either the city or the county. So it isn't a blanket, you get out of everything in 8.3, but it does allow for that negotiation as a tool.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other? Commissioner Woke?
Yes. So because this is associated with another project on here, and we are talking about affordable housing, one of the policies that this particular project does not comply with is Policy 39, which is preserving and creating natural areas, open spaces, et cetera, particularly for affordable housing to improve physical and mental health of residents. And so to set aside land for open space by allowing greater building heights or densities. So instead of taking away the open space and the tree coverage, is there another way to, I mean, this is obviously a great project that I think, but we would like to see, but I don't feel comfortable with taking away any the green spaces from this affordable housing project.
Commissioner Cutright? I think it's two different things. This is tree coverage and opens. Go ahead.
And so if I understand, this is just as it relates to development agreements.
Correct.
This is the third one that's come before the city in how long?
I think it's at least in the 4.5 years that I've been here.
Okay, and it would only apply to future development agreements to allow for negotiation around tree cover with the city. And it would still come before us and city or county before any decisions were made?
Absolutely.
I know that's been stated, but I just wanted to make sure I understand it. Okay.
Absolutely, yep. And so they're all subject to public hearings as well.
Okay, thank you.
Any other commissioners? Go ahead, Commissioner.
So this may be for city staff or the applicant. Is this text amendment going to be just for this project, or it's going to be universal for the UDO for the whole rest of projects that might qualify?
Right. So this is for the entire UDO, but it isn't making changes for all projects by right. So every project that wants to make a change to 8.3 through a statutory development agreement would have to come back through y'all, and then either the city or the county. So it just provides that as a tool for negotiation. It isn't like a by right, you have any sort of exception from the tree coverage requirements, but it does allow the city or the county to use that in terms of, leveraging between community benefits, which is the intent of a statutory development agreement. Because this is the only way that you can reduce tree coverage unless you are going to do a variance. And to do a variance, you have to have a hardship, right? You have to go through the quasi-judicial process. So there's no spot in a variance for this is a good project, et cetera. So this is the only way to legislatively change the amount of tree coverage on a site. So this is allowing for that through this process with both you all and either the city or county.
All right, that was another one of my questions. Is there not another already in place system to deal with this, the Board of Adjustment, the Board of Variances?
So only if it's a hardship. So it has to be a physical hardship related to the property that meets certain standards that are then held in a quasi-judicial, like a courtroom. So if they don't have a hardship, then no. So for this project, they would not technically have a hardship because they could still build something else, if that makes sense. Yes.
Okay, so my concern is that this will set some sort of precedent for small area affordable housing projects in the city of Durham where they will not have the same requirement for tree coverage as others, and then they will look different. And they will then, become urban heat islands, and that is one of the things that I believe is in the UDO or the comprehensive plan to not have affordable housing look different.
Right, and so each time that came before you, you all could vote to disprove it on those grounds. You could say, this project does not meet the community benefits because of X, Y, or Z. We do not think this is a good statutory development agreement to be entered into between the city and an applicant. So this gives the ability to provide that negotiation, but it does not give you any exception without first going before you. So you can express those concerns and you can make those decisions on a project by project basis.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Chair. I just want to express that I have very real concerns that this will increase the amount of projects coming before us where they don't meet the agreed upon tree coverage. I just want to express that.
Anyone else? I think any time we make a change, it could open a door for anybody to do anything. But we have to take in consideration this is affordable housing that is greatly needed in Durham, and sometimes we need to make exceptions. Go ahead, Commissioner Colbert.
I just want to acknowledge, too, that this request is based on a case that while we have prepared for, we have not heard about yet and not have had a chance to ask questions about, to understand what alternatives may be available for this case, which would then maybe lead to this text amendment to not be necessary right now, to not open that door. Do we think about that in terms of the ordering of the agenda?
So the opposite could also occur, in which you all said absolutely not, and then there would be no point in them coming up and presenting, because right now within that request they require a change in tree coverage. Mm-hmm. So I think this came before because this is sort of priming you. But yes, and this also is sort of alerting you to the fact that it's going to be a request within that submittal. So then you can then say, okay, the reduction in tree coverage is, dependent upon this text amendment, and also sort of alerting you to the fact that this is a time to ask those questions about that tree coverage and those specific concerns with that project.
So I think it's helpful to hear about this first. Would it be possible to have heard this and then move on to the case? And then, as we often do, such as in the case of a rezoning and an annexation, we have kind of sequential voting,
Say we can
one after the other.
postpone this vote. I can close this part, postpone the vote, open up the public hearing for Page Corners.
And this gives a
Then we
chance
can
to
have
go past.
subsequent motions.
Yeah, and have people
The
give-
text amendment would have to go first, and then the zoning would have to go, if that's what everybody,
And that would just give the opportunity for more questions by commissioners to
is
understand.
that fine with the applicant?
The case.
All right.
And I'll And I'll just reiterate just what Chair Cameron had said, too, that I do acknowledge and appreciate that it seems that this will apply in very limited cases over which this body and elected officials will have control. And so it doesn't feel so much like opening a Pandora's box. And I also agree about the importance of affordability. But I think it'd be helpful to hear the case and have a discussion first and then return back to both votes. So thank you, staff and chair, for accommodating that.
All right,
Do I need to move that?
no, we just agreed to it, and we're going to postpone the vote. And we're going to, because the public hearing's already closed, so case is not over, it's just continuing. All right, so we're going to move on to zoning map changes, and we're going to move on to case Z2400027-BDG2400012 Page Corners. May we have the staff report, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'm here to present Z2400027 Page Corners. This site is located at 4004 and 4110 Page Road. It's two properties consisting of 7.602 acres. The applicant proposes up to 160 apartment units, with 100% being income restricted through the execution of a development agreement. The existing zoning is residential rural and commercial center, and staff would like to acknowledge that the staff report incorrectly states the existing zoning as commercial general. It is commercial center as shown in Exhibit A. The proposed zoning that they are wanting to do is planned development residential, 22.456. The aerial map shows the general location of the project on the southern portion of Chin Page Road and Page Road intersection. The property is currently designated neighborhood services on the place type map. The proposed zoning was determined inconsistent with the designated place type. Staff would recommend a place type of apartment and townhouse neighborhood, if approved. And here is a summary of some of the commitments. The applicant has included text commitments, including limitations on height and setbacks. In addition, a development agreement is incorporated into the textual development plan. A statutory development agreement is a contract between the city and the applicant intended to provide community benefits within developments that are difficult to accommodate within the traditional zoning processes. Statutory development agreements are enabled by the state, and UDO Section 3.26 sets the framework for which these agreements can operate. Under the proposed development agreement, the applicant would receive reductions in Unified Development Ordinance minimum requirements for project boundary buffers, open space, and tree coverage, and increased allowance in fence heights. Specifically, the applicant would see a reduction of the required project boundary buffer to 0, a reduction of the required amount of open space from 20% to 15% with no dimensional standard, an increased allowance of open space from 20% to 40% within the stormwater control measure, an increase in the allowed fence height from 4 feet to 6 feet, and a reduction of the required 20% tree coverage to 7%. This last benefit to the applicant for reduced tree coverage is the basis of the previous text amendment that you just heard. If approved, the city would receive benefits in the form of 160 income-restricted units, 2 electric car charging stations, native trees for the site, a limit of 70% impervious surface, and at least 2 recreational amenities. Because the statutory development agreement is a committed element of the development plan, the termination of the agreement would require rezoning of the property to perform any subsequent development without the agreement. Neighborhood meetings were held in accordance with the neighborhood meeting guidelines on June 6, 2024, and February 26, 2025. No comments have been submitted to the Durham Rezoning Explorer in relation to the case. And staff has determined that the proposal is inconsistent with the place type map designation of neighborhood services. If the zoning map change is approved, staff recommends a new place type of apartment and townhouse neighborhood. The proposal is consistent with 19 of 26 comprehensive plan policies. Staff and the applicant are available for any questions.
Thank you. At this time, the chair is opening the public hearing. May the applicant, oh, you're already there. Go ahead.
Good evening, Chairwoman Cameron, Vice Chair Shigaris, members of the Planning Commission. I'm Patrick Byker. I live at 2614 Stewart Drive. I'm an attorney with Morningstar Law Group, and I'm here tonight representing Lincoln Avenue Communities for this agenda item. I'm joined tonight by Brian Maloney of Lincoln Avenue Communities, who is based in California, so he is joining us by Zoom. I'm also joined by Mr. Tim Sivers, the president of CUNITY, our land planning and site engineering company for this outstanding affordable housing development that is called Page Corners. Page Corners is, in my opinion, a superb infill development that for the most part is surrounded by other residential development with apartments to the north on the other side of Chin Page Road, townhouses on the other side of Page Road, and single-family homes on approximately 1/10 of an acre lots to the west. As you can see on this slide, our net developable area is just over 7 acres. Our goal is to build 4-story buildings that will contain 160 apartments, all 160 will be affordable for Durham residents who are at or below 60% of the area median income. Page Corners will be financed with a 4% low-income housing tax credit. The Durham Place type map designates this acreage as neighborhood service area. Unfortunately, the presence of Brier Creek that is just over a mile away makes commercial development here unlikely to succeed. As the zoning attorney for the over 400-acre Bethpage development on the north side of Chin Page Road, we had almost 20 acres on the corner of Page and Chin Page zoned commercial since 2007. We could not locate any anchor tenants for that site. Likewise, one of the hardest tasks facing affordable housing developers is locating a site and getting it under contract, since affordable developers like Lincoln have to compete with market rate apartment developers for land to build on. So we are fortunate to have these 7.5 acres under contract, which will allow for the construction of 160 apartments. These apartments will be in 4-story buildings that are served by elevators, making these apartments accessible to a wide range of ages and family types. I need to stress that the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency typically requires 1.75 parking spaces per apartment. Our team was able to obtain a reduction down to 1.5 parking spaces per apartment. Moreover, it is Lincoln Avenue's practice to provide robust on-site amenities for the residents of these 160 apartments in order to create a sense of place and a sense of belonging for Lincoln Avenue residents. In addition to our zoning map change application, our team also has submitted a development agreement to the Planning Department. North Carolina statutes allow for development agreements since every site is different, and from time to time, there are situations that require certain modifications of the standards in the Durham Unified Development Ordinance. Of course, such modifications of the UDO should be justified based on a development providing strong community benefits. For Page Corners, the community benefits will be 160 apartments that are affordable for families earning 60% or less of the area median income, along with strong on-site amenities for this apartment community. We need to modify the 20% open space down to 15% based on the site constraints, such as required parking and required stormwater control measures. When you start with 7.5 acres, then you take out the area for the apartment buildings, you take out the parking areas, you take out the area needed for right-of-way dedication, and you take out the area needed for the stormwater control measures. It is not possible to allocate 20% of this just over 7-acre site to open space and tree coverage requirements. Accordingly, the 4 key points of the proposed development agreement are: 1, in regards to open space, Page Corners will provide 15% rather than the required 20% due to the site constraints I just mentioned. 2, in regards to tree coverage, Page Corners will provide a minimum of 7%, which is the same tree coverage requirement in the compact neighborhood tier. I need to emphasize that the compact neighborhood tier is only a mile away going south on Page Road. I also want to state on the record that Page Corners will provide as many trees as possible along the Sterling Community Association property line. 3, Page Corners needs to increase the perimeter fence height from 4 feet to 6 feet. And 4, Page Corners needs to remove the unnecessary but required buffer along the AT&T Frontier property line and the mass grading buffer to allow for cost-effective, single-phase build-out of this 7-acre site. To wrap up, Page Corners will be one of the strongest affordable housing developments that has been proposed in the city of Durham, with 160 apartments affordable to Durham residents, making up to 60% of the area median income. Our team recognizes we need to provide as much tree coverage as possible and provide as much buffering as possible along the Sterling Community Association property to the west. I also want to address the heat island comment that has been made during our neighborhood meetings and earlier this evening. I want to stress that nothing in the development agreement will reduce vehicle use area landscaping. All of the trees that are required in the parking areas will be installed. Lastly, I want to stress that Lincoln has a fine track record across our nation, as you can see on this slide. Lincoln Avenue Communities owns over 170 properties containing over 30,500 dwelling units. Lincoln Avenue Communities expects to be the long-term owner of this development and will provide solid on-site management for the new residents, as shown on this slide. We hope we will be fortunate enough to receive approval of the entitlements I have described this evening. And for all these reasons, we respectfully ask for your recommendation of approval. Mr. Sivers and I will be happy to answer your questions, and we thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you. Do we have a sign-up sheet for this? That's it. Okay. Do we have any, sir, do you want to come back up and ask your question now? Can you just state your name and address again for us? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Matt Lissack. I'm at 203 Old Castle. And so the gentleman just mentioned that it was Frontier and or AT&T, but I think he made a pretty good case for why this probably shouldn't happen, right? All the exceptions, all the changes, slippery slope. Once you make these exceptions for one person, you got to make them for a lot of other ones. But one thing is they haven't mentioned whether or not they made any contact with AT&T or Frontier to get their approval to remove the buffer between the two locations there, or have they had any agreement as far as the stormwater runoff that is planned to go in front of the AT&T land, and along the Chin Page Road, there's a trench there, which I think they're planning on using because they promised us in the prior meeting that they weren't going to be using the stormwater system for the Sterling community, which we greatly appreciate because we are currently running into a situation with another builder who is using our stuff without us knowing it, and it's causing significant detriment to our stormwater facilities. Probably going to end up in a lawsuit there. So the other thing, as far as space, it doesn't look like there's going to be the ability for people to turn the ways that they need to turn. That's already a very congested intersection, and the people at Sterling can, and I guess even at the city, can attest to the fact that there's been numerous accidents on the Chin Page in the Sterling community on, Crown Parkway. One person lost a limb, and so they made an attempt to try and reduce the amount of cross traffic through that area by putting in a biking path, but that biking path drives people right into a median between the ongoing traffic and a sign, and I saw somebody had lost a side mirror because of the way the lines were drawn. So, even if this were to go through by some stretch, I think that there should be something done to help remedy the additional traffic that's going to say, I don't want to get stuck at this Chin Page intersection, so I'll just go through the Sterling community at 55 miles an hour to make up time. So we've been seeing a lot of, speeding through there. And there's, ways of mitigating that, the slow ramps and stuff like that to keep people going, 25. The speed limit there is currently 35 miles an hour. It should probably be dropped to 25 to help people get the idea that they're going through a residential community.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Am I?
2 minutes. Yeah, you had 2 minutes.
Okay.
2 minutes were up. No, your time is up. Sorry.
Okay.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the galley that would like to speak? Is there anyone on the, have several people that have raised their hands on the Zoom? First, we have Daniel Hawk. Go ahead, sir.
Hello and good evening. My name is Daniel Hawk, and I live at 2152 Tulip Bloom Lane in the 40 and Page community across the street from Page Corners. I'd like to express my support for affordable housing as well as my concerns specific to this proposed development and associated rezoning. Now, as the saying roughly goes, the best time to build housing was yesterday, and the second best time is today. I believe that the construction of workforce housing in particular is something to strive for, and improving access to housing will help all Durham residents, both current and future, live and work in a dynamic and thriving region. However, there are a few points to consider in opposition to granting the exceptions to the UDO requested here tonight. First off, the plan notably reduces open space and tree coverage to significantly less than the UDO minimum. The UDO established these minimums for a good reason. In the pursuit of maximizing density, 4 buildings and associated parking are proposed to be jammed in a manner of development more consistent with downtown Durham or a transit-oriented development than a parcel that is currently undeveloped fields and trees in the suburban fringe. This ties into my second point, that of the current neighborhood fabric and overall height. 4-story buildings are proposed as part of this development. Given the adjoining properties, a maximum of 2 or 3 stories would be more in alignment with the community. To highlight my point, directly across Chinpage Road, 2- and 3-story apartments are currently going in. Directly across Page Road, 2-story townhomes have just been completed, including my own. Now, I'll note many of these townhomes are not at grade with Page Road, so they're nearly a full story or more below the ground level of the proposed development, so it's closer to 5 or even 6 floors above the lowest level of some of our homes. And finally, directly behind the proposed development, single-family homes, but directly against the parcel. Now, in my view, the addition of tightly packed 4-story apartments right against the road and directly adjacent to existing less intense development will feel out of place to the community. The key point here is that 4 stories of this housing is a result of reducing the tree coverage and open space requirements in a manner inconsistent with the surrounding neighborhoods. My hope is that by keeping the existing UDO requirements in place, the commission will encourage lesser development, a less dense development, potentially with fewer buildings that would still provide for significant affordable housing. Such housing would be built without disrupting the nature of the neighborhood. And I just, honestly, more is not always better.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We had some other hands raised. They went down. I'm going to assume that you don't want to speak. All right, is there anyone else on the Zoom that would like to speak? Mike Annucci?
Yes, I had a.
Can you please state your name and your address?
Yes, my name is Mike Iannucci. I live at 402 Crusaders Drive in the Sterling community. And there are, among other concerns, one major concern is that they keep saying that this is required to reduce the amount of open space and tree space, but I don't see how it's a requirement when they could build less buildings. They could build a smaller community and still have enough. The point of these UDO restrictions is to keep a certain level of open space and to keep a certain look to the area. I'm worried, and I know many other people in my neighborhood also are worried, that building an area that seems so much more densely packed with buildings is going to take away from the overall appeal of not only our neighborhood, but neighborhoods in the nearby vicinity, thereby reducing property values. And I know this is a major concern in my neighborhood and other neighboring neighborhoods. So why even though they keep saying it is a requirement, why can they not simply build a smaller community, take up less of the open space, and not interfere as much with the overall appearance of our area?
Thank you.
That is my concern.
Okay.
That they are pushing rules that exist for a reason to keep a uniform appeal to the area,
Thank you.
just to cram more apartments in.
Thank you. Is there anyone else on the Zoom wishing to speak? We have a caller, 919-599-2892. If you would unmute yourself and state your name and your address. Go ahead.
Hi, this is Mimi Kessler. I'm sorry, I'm calling in late. I think that this property doesn't suit the application that the developer wants to make. I think there's sufficient things that do not fit with the plan that the comprehensive plan mandates, and I don't think that we should rezone for property for developments that don't fit with the location and also the topography. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff Thornburg.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Kelly Thornburg. I am 117 Roundtable Place in Sterling. Going back to the traffic issues here, if this was to go through, Page and Chinpade, that whole road is it's a very small road. And with the upcoming townhomes that are trying to finish, and on the other side of T. Alexandria, it's still being built and not all of it is occupied. And they are planning to put more apartments on there. Are they doing anything about widening up the road for traffic to go through? That's my one concern. The other concern that is, if this is going to go through, lowering the value of my home, is the city going to give me back my income tax for the devaluing of my home? Because I don't want that to be happening.
Thank you. Is there anyone else on the Zoom? Okay, at this time, Chair is going to call the applicant back forth to answer some of those questions and concerns that the community stated.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Do want to emphasize that the reduction in open space is from 20% to 15%. And again, for the record, the compact neighborhood tier only requires 7%. So we're still double what would be required in the compact neighborhood tier in regards to open space. I also want to emphasize one thing I should have stated. This location, Page Corners, is only about 1 mile east of Research Triangle Park and about 1 mile north of Imperial Center. Those are by far two of Durham's largest employment centers. And to my knowledge, there's no affordable housing anywhere in Southeast Durham. I worked on the zonings for most of these neighborhoods. To my knowledge, there's no affordable housing within 1 mile of Research Triangle Park or Imperial Center. I'd like to address the reducing property values. I mentioned the first development agreement that I worked on, which is over in Southwest Durham on Crescent Drive, and that's just a little bit west of Farrington Road. As you all know, I think, we just went through a countywide revaluation. We had the advantage with that being able to compare the current valuations that were assessed on January 1st of 2025 against the revaluation that was done January 1st, 2019. As I mentioned, the first development agreement happened in October of 2020. That was for a very similar development, 4-story apartment buildings financed with a 4% low-income housing tax credit. I looked at the closest house, single-family house, to those apartments that were built by Laurel Street out of Charlotte with a 4% low-income housing tax credit. It was a brick ranch house, attractive brick ranch house, probably built in the 50s or 60s, and it's about 175 feet away from the Laurel Street affordable housing development. 175 feet, which is probably closer than most of the folks you heard from this evening. The property value back in 2019 was $413,000, according to Durham County. The property value after the affordable housing was built, $643,000, a 56% increase. I think that's a pretty strong increase in property values. And so I don't see any evidence for there being a reduction in anybody's property value based on Page Corners. Lastly, I'd like to address traffic. We will have a right-in, right-out access onto Chin Page Road. We will have a full movement access onto Page Road. We will be providing the turn lane, the widening, for both of those infrastructure improvements. And again, that's where we lose half an acre of property, is dedicating right-of-way on those 2 roads. So that takes us from 7.5 down to 7 because of the road widenings. In regards to Crown Parkway, that was referenced by the gentleman here, this project doesn't access Crown Parkway. Our access points are only onto Chin Page Road and Page Road. And if you look at your staff report, you see that Page Road is approximately at 2/3 of its capacity, and Chin Page Road is only at 1/3 of its capacity. So if we can't put affordable housing here, where can we put it? So our team will be happy to answer any questions, but I did want to address traffic, property values, and the proximity to major employment centers. We're happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. We haven't done that yet. All right, the public hearing is now closed, and we are now open for county commissioner discussion questions. Right, go ahead.
Thank you. I just had a question. I know we've talked quite a bit about the decrease in green space, but you also mentioned a number of amenities designed to build community collaboration, get folks together. Can you talk a little bit more about what those amenities are anticipated to be?
Yes. If you look at, they're actually specified on the top of page 5 in the development agreement. The developer, Lincoln Avenue Communities, will provide at least 2 of the following: a dog park, a playground, a swimming pool, a disc golf course, play fields, and a community garden and a clubhouse. Our game plan right now is for clubhouse, swimming pool, and then parks and open green space for people to gather at with seating areas, places for common meals, in addition to a large, I would say it's a fairly large clubhouse and a swimming pool that would make this a very attractive community. That's specified in the top of page 5 in the development agreement. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Cutright.
Thank you, Chair.
Yes, sir.
I don't know if you have anything to help synthesize the reduction in space so that people can sort of see. I don't know if you have any visuals to help maybe show what 20 to 15 looks like. I just think that helps synthesize what we're talking about here. I'll pause there and see if you have anything.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Unfortunately, the Durham practices, if we show a graphic, it's generally taken as a committed element or a text commitment. What I can emphasize is that there will be as much buffering as possible along the western property line. There'll be a large center green space, open space, and then there will be significant tree save along the bottom corner, and the community area will be at the entrance off of Page Road. So what we want to emphasize for the record is that there will be green space that will be spread out through the community, and we will hit 15% open space, which is more than double than a compact neighborhood tier site would require. So I'm sorry we can't provide that on the record. Yeah, generally it's taken if I put up the site plan. We've turned in the site plan, so that's a public record. But if I showed it to you, that would become a committed element or a text commitment to the zoning. So
Appreciate it.
we want to be a good neighbor. That's why I put up this last slide here, because it specifies neighbors. Since Lincoln Avenue Communities has over 170 properties, they understand how important that is.
Okay, appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
I think I'll state that as we think about affordable housing in our communities, one, it is not easy. It's not easy to create particularly 60% AMI affordable housing. If you get a chance and you want to see some numbers and how this works, give me a ring and I'm happy to show you that you can't get it all. It just doesn't work like that. It's not that easy. If it was, we'd have a lot more of it. And so there are some sacrifices that have to occur, some of that being scale. And so as you think about growing, as you think about how much or how many units you need to put on a particular site, it's important to consider that number. And sometimes it takes space to fit those numbers into a particular site. So as you're looking at affordable housing and some of the sacrifices that have to be made, sometimes it's trees in order to get more scale so that you can actually financially afford to do these projects. Without that, it doesn't work and there is no housing. And so I talk about this all the time. There's often sacrifice, and the question is, what are we sacrificing? In this case, we're sacrificing some trees and some open space. Not all of it, but some of it, so that we can build 160 affordable units for our community. So I'll leave it there. I think it's really important to understand the numbers, and I'm happy to discuss those with anyone who has questions about that.
And I'm going to take chair privilege and pick up from where Commissioner Cutright left off. When we discuss affordable housing, there's often NIMBY and a misconception of what affordable housing is and the different layers of affordable housing. This is going to be bond financing with 4% tax credits at 60% AMI. Typically, people at 60% AMI have a job. They're a police officer, they're a teacher, they're the firefighter. They're not going to be the folks that you have some type of stereotype about that's going to come in and junk up your neighborhood. It's not going to happen. I've never seen affordable housing development that is built with tax credits that typically has to look like a market rate because they have to abide by the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency rules, bring down any type of property value either. And with that, I'll get off my soapbox, and if you want to talk, we can talk as well. Any other commissioner want to say something? Commissioner Kopak. Well, I recognized you, so you go.
Yes, Madam Chair. So question first on the parking, and I understand that's a requirement from North Carolina Housing Finance Agency. Is it surface or deck, and did you have a choice?
You have a choice, but structured parking would be cost prohibitive and wouldn't be financeable.
Okay.
So it is 100% surface parking, just like the other development agreements that have been approved by the city of Durham for affordable housing. All of those are surface parked. The 4% tax credit does not support structured parking.
Okay. Second is you were developing this project, what was the max number of units you looked at, and what was the minimum?
It was always right on 160, I believe, Commissioner Kopak. You need that number of units to support a robust amenity package that I referenced in a few minutes ago. So, and it's a footprint, a prototype that's well established for low-income housing tax credit finance projects and also Lincoln Avenue communities. This is something that's simply in keeping with a proven track record on how to provide quality affordable housing. Again, 4-story with elevators, with amenities, and then obviously we have the parking and the stormwater control measures. So all that was factored in, and Tim, to my knowledge, we've always had a goal of 160 units, and that's, again, to make our financial model work.
Yeah, I think it's helpful just to voice what some of the trade-offs are that are facing this sort of deal. And since that's what you're saying, like, to do fewer units would make it harder to support the amenities. But that also might allow you to have more open space and trees to align with UDO, but that would be sacrificing affordable housing units, which, as we know, are so hard to come by, particularly at 60%. But, so it sounds like those are some of the trade-offs that have been considered in the development of this. So to have fewer units would mean fewer amenities and just fewer units.
Yes, sir, that's exactly right. We certainly considered it. We had 2 lengthy neighborhood meetings, and yeah, to drop down to, say, 120 units, we felt was not good public policy. And it would have sacrificed probably the amenities that are referenced in the development agreement down to like a tot lot. You know, I think we need to, not only do you get more affordable housing next to our employment centers, you get better quality for the community.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and you know, I visited the site yesterday, and I want to acknowledge and thank residents who've come to speak, and that, you know, it can be disruptive when you have projects come in that don't look like the projects, like the housing that you have in place. And so I acknowledge the discomfort in that. Also considering the proximity to the employment centers, to Brier Creek, and knowing just how difficult it is to put these sorts of deals together and access this kind of affordable housing for 60%. I'm also really glad to see this come forward. So thank you.
Commissioner Woke.
Hi, thank you. As I said earlier, and I guess at the wrong time, that this is, 60% AMI is fantastic. What I am uncomfortable with is giving the residents less open space, right? That goes against the comprehensive plan policy. And have we considered like raising building height as a way to preserve more trees, more open space in this area, yet still getting this 160 units that make this project viable?
That, you heard certain folks mention the height of 4-story. We thought that going to 5 stories, which, if I'm understanding your question, that would have been out of character with the community. And again, I've worked on most of the developments in this part of Durham. I'm not aware of anything that's 5 stories in that part of Durham, so I think it would have been seriously out of character to go to 5 stories. Usually 5 stories apartments are associated with structured parking when you're getting to that level of density. So yeah, we looked at it, but again, it's when you look at these 4% low-income housing tax credit finance projects, to my knowledge, and again, my knowledge is pretty limited, but I can tell you what I've worked on in the region. It's a 4-story elevator serviced building with surface parking. And when you look at the other standards, yeah, it's just unfortunate that in the suburban tier, it's sort of an assumption that, well, you can just go get more land. Well, we have a finite amount of land at this triangle. And you've got, you know, you put together just the stormwater control and the right-of-way dedication, and you lose probably 2 acres. Probably lose almost 2 acres just to stormwater and right-of-way. So that 7.5 just got knocked down to 5.5. You got the parking. Unfortunately, I probably shouldn't say this on the record. Unfortunately, the 1.5 units is a mandate, and it's, yeah, if we didn't have that mandate, we could probably build less parking. But we don't have a choice, Commissioner. We don't have a choice. And we were very fortunate to get down from 1.7. If we were at 1.75, then these numbers we've shared with you in the development agreement, they'd be worse. And the Housing Finance Agency didn't have to give us that reduction. They didn't have to. We lobbied hard for it, and we got it. But that's, again, that's a condition that we cannot alter. It's the hand, we have to play that cards we're dealt.
Thank you. Let's let everyone speak first. Yeah. Anybody else want to speak for the first time? Oh, okay. Go ahead. 2 minutes, something left.
Yeah, first of all, just to thank my fellow commissioner for once again raising the issue of open space and trees, because I think that's something we'd all be very reluctant as a body to agree to, or I should just speak for myself, if it wasn't for some significant amenity or benefit. So thank you for raising that again. I realize I had in my notes, I don't think I fully understood the back and forth about the AT&T Frontier buffer. Was that resolved to the satisfaction of the residents? Did we answer that question? I don't think I understood that.
If I could answer that, Commissioner, I'm sorry. If you look at this slide here, you see the red triangle at the top of the slide. All that relates to is about 120 feet where there would be residential use against the commercial use of the AT&T switching center. You can see there's actually a vacant lot in between the two. So the building is 200 feet away. So it's a really needless buffer, and the building's not even, to my knowledge, it's not even occupied. It's just a building that houses switching equipment. So it's not like there's a bunch of people going there, and that's really all we're talking about in terms of the project boundary buffer between commercial and residential at that location where it says 118.66 was my rough measurement on GIS. That's all it is, sir.
So there's a building there.
Right, but it's all the way. If you see it, you can see it on the slide.
Oh, that's on the slide. Okay.
It's that building on the slide.
And what is happening with that building? Is that building desirable for some reason? Is the buffer desirable or in question? Like, what's the?
There's a vacant lot in between the two, so I don't know what purpose it would serve. And if this site were to be redeveloped, then there's more than enough land to do the buffer on the west side.
I don't know what the problem is. I really don't. It's a utility buffer, you know what I mean? Any other questions? Yes.
I think this is maybe a question for staff. It might be for the applicant. Is there no way for this project to move forward without changing the UDO?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Okay, hold on, I'm gonna look at something real quick. Okay. Commissioners, are we ready to move the text amendment forward? All right.
Chair, as it relates to text amendment TC 24-003, statutory development agreement amendment, I make a recommendation that we move this forward with favorable recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Cutright and seconded by Commissioner Kopak to move case TC 24-003 statutory development agreement forward with a favorable recommendation. May I have the roll call vote, please?
Chair Cameron?
Yes.
Vice Chair Shigaris?
No.
Commissioner Capers?
Yes.
Commissioner Cutright?
Yes.
Commissioner Chakowski?
No.
Commissioner Kopak?
Yes.
Commissioner McIver?
Yes.
Commissioner Piontek?
Yes.
And Commissioner Woke?
No.
The text amendment passes 6-3.
Thank you. May we have a motion to move case Z2400023 BDG2400012 Page Corners Road, Page Corners forward, please?
Chair, as it relates to case Z2400027 and annexation BDG2400032 Z2400012 Page Corners forward with a favorable recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved, now I gotta look at my chart. It's been moved forward by Commissioner Cutright and, oh my God, Piontek. I don't have my new seating chart. Commissioner Piontek seconded by Commissioner Piontek to move case Z2400027-BDG2400012 Page Corners forward with a favorable recommendation. May I have the roll call vote, please?
Chair Cameron,
Yes.
Vice Chair Shigaris,
No.
Commissioner Capers,
Yes.
Commissioner Cutright,
Yes.
Commissioner Chakowski,
No.
Commissioner Kopak,
Yes.
Commissioner McIver,
Yes.
Commissioner Piontek,
Yes.
and Commissioner Wilk.
Yes.
This is a favorable recommendation, 6-3.
Thank you. All right, moving forward. Yeah, you were talking really soft there. I don't know if everybody heard that it said it, yeah,
My apologies. It passes 6-3.
thank you. 7-3. 7-2. It was different than the first one.
My apologies.
All right, case number Z2400049-BDG2300032 Danube Lane. May we have the staff report, please?
Good evening, Chair Cameron, Vice Chair Shigaris, and Commissioners. My name is Peyton Burgess, and I'm in front of you tonight to present Z2300049 Danube Lane townhouses. And I'm going to be honest, I was really hoping that you would have like a solid pronunciation of it, because I feel like I've been saying it several different ways. So if anybody knows the right way to say it, feel free to let me know. The request is for a rezoning and annexation of 5.04 acres located at 3824 and 3910 Danube Lane, going from residential suburban 20 to planned development residential 7.813. The site is currently in the mixed-use neighborhood and recreation and open space place types. The proposal is for up to 30 dwelling units to be a mixture of townhouses and duplexes. Again, the existing zoning is residential suburban 20. It is surrounded by the same and planned development residential. The aerial map shows the general location of the project. The property is currently designated mixed-use neighborhood and recreation and open space on the place type map. The proposed zoning was determined consistent with the place type. The applicant has included the following textual commitments: a maximum of 30 units to include both townhouse and duplexes and no other housing types, a minimum of 2 different unit heights and widths, providing a plat for the future construction of a greenway, the construction of a bus pullout and concrete pad/shelter to the Go Durham specifications, a 10-foot concrete shared path, a median on Danube Lane to restrict site access to right in, right out, and 18% open space. The graphic development plan shows that the building and parking envelope is kept out of the environmentally sensitive areas on the north portion of the site, and the tree preservation is in that area as well. The red dashed line in this area is the proposed Cub Creek Greenway Trail. The green dashed line on the bottom portion of the site is the 10-foot concrete shared path mentioned from the text commitments. Neighborhood meetings were held on November 15th, 2023 and October 8th, 2024. 8 community members attended the first and 1 attended the second. There have been no Durham Rezoning Explorer comments received in relation to this case. The proposal is found to be consistent with the place type designation of mixed-use neighborhood and recreation and open space, consistent with 17 of 26 applicable comprehensive plan policies. Staff and the applicant are available to answer any questions.
Thank you. At this time, the chair is opening the public hearing. If the applicant come forward.
Hello, good evening, Madam Chair, members of the Planning Commission. My name is Laura Holloman. I'm a project planner on this case with McAdams. My address is 2905 Meridian Parkway here in Durham. Staff has done a wonderful job outlining the project before you tonight and working with us over the course of the last year to make this small project a reality. This is a small infill residential project, as staff mentioned, allowing up to 30 residential units. And we've worked hard to maximize the site as much as possible while also being mindful of sensitive environmental areas. This is why we have chosen not to develop the northern parcel of the site at all. Instead, it will be left permanently in open space. The southern portion of the site will be where residential units are allowed. This fits in nicely with the surrounding area. As you all are probably aware, currently under construction adjacent to this site on the south side of Carver Lane is Cub Creek Station, which is under construction now, that has a mixture of townhomes, apartments, and single family, although there are no certificates of occupancy that have been issued yet, but the land has been cleared directly adjacent to this site. And that total development totals approximately 134 acres. On Danube, as we move north, north of the environmental protected area, there is an existing townhome community called Danube Lane Townhomes. So this is a nice transition to them. They won't have any houses next door. They'll have a nice environmental area. So therefore, we feel this project is in harmony with the surrounding area, and we were happy that staff agreed that it was consistent with the comprehensive plan as well. Additionally, we have committed to, subject to Go Triangle and Go Durham determination, constructing a bus pullout and shelter either on Carver or on Danube, depending on where it makes the most sense at the time of site plan. So with that said, I'm happy to answer any questions that you all may have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Do we have a sign-up sheet for this? Thank you. No one signed up. Is there anyone in the gallery that would like to speak on this that has not signed up? Nope. Is there anyone on the Zoom that would like to speak to this case? Is there anyone in the Zoom that would like to speak to this case? All right, hearing none, the public hearing is now closed. We are now open for commissioner discussion and questions. No, Commissioner Woke.
Hi. I have a couple questions. One, this is in a transit opportunity area where it's requesting 20% of the units be affordable, is my first question. And then the other one is, I noticed that you've not committed to any native plantings, which seems, for such a small project, seems like a fairly easy comprehensive plan policy to comply with.
Sure. Thank you for your question. Your two questions. First of all, affordable units, we understand that. We understand the policies at which Durham is trying to move forward. However, with a project of this size, with only being 30 units, it's really hard to make that work. It's something that we've considered and will continue to consider, but just by crunching the numbers over the last year and a half or so, this is just something that is difficult to do, which is why, as you are familiar with projects that have come through with similar size, they have been unable to commit to affordable housing as well. But certainly understand your point. In terms of the native plantings, that's a great idea for a commitment, and I think something that we will happily entertain.
Thank you. No? Any other questions? Are we ready to move this case forward? Commissioner Klopak.
Thank you for the presentation. I do note and appreciate that you are following the comprehensive plan around protective of sensitive areas, and I love the kind of the set aside of the space for the future trail. With that in mind, seconding the native plants, so thank you for being willing to make a commitment on that. It also calls to go beyond the minimum in certain of the other environmental characteristics of a site, like tree cover. And I just noticed that you committed that at the level that is required by the UDO, but in the comprehensive plan, it asks for projects to go beyond that. And seeing this as a site with, pretty significant natural area, is that something you've considered? And would you consider increasing the percent of tree cover?
I think we're, I don't know the math, how it works out in terms of the full area north. But just want to be mindful of the fact we did look at that. However, we also know that there's a trail that's going through there. So, is there an opportunity to, does the city, in the future want to make that a wayfinding area where, you have a trailhead and some things there? That's why we were reluctant to look at preserving more tree coverage there. Additionally, there's some easements that run through there that, the code doesn't allow us to count. So it just ended up being, honestly, if that didn't set up so nicely for environmental, this project wouldn't work because, as even when you're dealing with, you saw in the previous case, that site had 7 acres. We're at less than 5 when we do right-of-way dedication and things like that and account for the 10-foot shared path, which we're happy to do. But, when we have to put in a road that goes through the site, we have to meet stormwater requirements. This site is just, it's tight as a tick, for lack of a better term, just trying to get everything in. But I certainly understand your point and your willingness to move forward with additional tree coverage, but it's just, unfortunately, it's just a site that we've done all we can.
Okay. Thank you. The Bike and Pedestrian Commission had asked you to look at adding the bollards to the street. It's fairly exposed from a bike lane standpoint. Did you evaluate how much that would cost? And what was the consideration around adding that additional amenity?
Yeah, it's something that we looked at. Again, the bike ped is obviously we try to do everything we can to meet those requirements. It's something that's an advisory committee, and they do a great job looking at all these different cases. I think we felt like we could dedicate our best big ticket item on such a small, which was the 10-foot shared path, constructing that prior to the first CO. So that's where we chose to put our money towards.
Okay. And when I visited the site, I did note that the transit stop is right there. And so I appreciate the commitment to do the bus pull out there as well. Okay, those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Chair.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Nope. We're ready to move this case forward? All right. May I have a motion?
Really quick before we move forward, was that an official proffer from the applicant for native plannings?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, so I can get that on the record.
We're ready now?
Chair, as it relates to case Z2300049, annexation BDG2300032 Danube Lane, I make a recommendation that we move this case forward with a favorable recommendation.
Second.
Goodness, y'all are scared to second it?
They just want to say her name.
God, okay, yes, yes. All right, it's been moved by Commissioner Cutright and seconded by Commissioner Piontek to move case Z2400049-BDG2300032 Danube, whatever, that's what we're calling it right now, Lane, forward with a favorable recommendation. May I have the roll call vote, please?
Chair Cameron?
Yes.
Vice Chair Shigaris?
Yes.
Commissioner Capers?
Yes.
Commissioner Cutright?
Yes.
Commissioner Chakowski?
Yes.
Commissioner Kopak?
Yes.
Commissioner McIver,
Yes. Yes.
Commissioner Piontek,
Yes.
and Commissioner Woke.
Yes.
Passes 9-0.
Thank you. 30 minutes. Next zoning map change case is Z24000, oh, sorry, nope. Yeah, this is right, 12 Brier Creek Multifamily. We have the staff report, please.
Thank you, Chair Cameron. Thank you. This is Brier Creek Multifamily, Z2400012. The following table summarizes the information. This is 10 parcels of land totaling 16.56 acres, proposed for up to 408 multifamily and townhouse dwelling units and accessory uses. The existing zoning is rural residential and residential suburban 10. Surrounding this site is a combination of residential rural, planned development residential, and commercial general. The applicant proposes to change this designation to planned development residential 25.000. The area map shows the general location of the project. The site is surrounded to the west, south, and east by residential development of various densities. To the north in Durham County, there's an industrial use and some undeveloped land. The property is currently a designated mixed residential neighborhood on the place type map. The proposed zoning is consistent with the designated place type. The following are a summary of commitments. There's roofing and exterior material design commitments. A minimum of 35% of plantings will be native species. 10-foot shared path along Andrews Chapel Road. 3% of the units will be income restricted to 80% AMI for a 20-year tenure. The maximum impervious surface is 70%, and they have committed to 180 linear feet of off-site sidewalk. Neighborhood meetings were held in accordance with the neighborhood meeting guidelines on January 9th, 2024, and February 5th, 2025. No comments have been submitted to the Durham Rezoning Explorer in relation to this case. The proposal is consistent with the place type, map, and designation of mixed residential neighborhood. The proposal is consistent with 15 of 25 applicable comprehensive plan policies. Thank you. Staff and the applicant are here for any questions.
Thank you. At this time, the chair is opening the public hearing. May the applicant please come forward.
Excuse me. Can I get some help pulling up our presentation? Oh, here we go. I think I got it. Perfect. Good evening, Chair Cameron, members of the Planning Commission. My name is Worth Mills with Longleaf Law Partners, 4509 Creedmoor Road in Raleigh, 27612. I'm joined by Bob Zumwalt, landscape architect with Kimley Horn, and we're here on behalf of Monts Ridge LLC, who is the owner and the rezoning applicant for this rezoning case that we've titled Brier Creek Multifamily. The request concerns 6 parcels along Andrews Chapel Road, totaling about 16.5 acres. It is split by the Wake County, Durham County line. A portion of the property is zoned residential rural, the balance zoned residential suburban 10. We're proposing to rezone to PDR 25 to facilitate a townhouse and apartment complex that would total 408 units. We're consistent with the place type map designation, as Mr. Kane mentioned, and we are consistent with the majority of the relevant policies in the comprehensive plan. So we have a lot of different housing types around us today. To our west are the Corners apartments. To our southwest are the Corners townhomes. And then to our east and our southeast are the towns at Brier Creek Crossing. And then as you move further down ACC Boulevard to TW Alexander Drive, you have a currently being constructed 4-story apartment complex with a 5-story senior living apartment complex on the southern side of TW Alexander. So as mentioned, that portion of the property in Durham County, zoned residential rural, that portion in Wake County, zoned residential suburban 10, surrounded by PDR zoning districts to our west and our east. A copy of our development plan that Mr. Kane showed, and I'll note a couple of the highlights from our rezoning conditions. So we are limiting building height for the multifamily to 5 stories and 75 feet, and the townhomes to 3 stories and 35 feet. We have building materials conditions, prohibited building materials conditions. We're committed to constructing that sidewalk east of our property to the intersection of ACC and Andrews Chapel, assuming that there is sufficient right-of-way existing there to extend that sidewalk all the way to the traffic circle that you see to the west. We do have an affordable housing condition of 3% of units at 80% AMI for 20 years. And then 2 other zoning conditions that we would like to offer this evening are a product of the second neighborhood meeting that we held in February. The most common feedback that we received at that meeting was from neighbors at the towns at Brier Creek to our east and to our southeast, primarily concerned with the potential 5-story height and the impacts that could result from 5-story development near their townhome community. And so what we have offered here is within 250 feet of the shared boundary line with some of the HOA property that is highlighted in blue there on your screen. Building height shall not exceed 4 stories and 60 feet, so providing a step down in height as you get closer to those adjacent communities. And then along that same boundary line, establishing a minimum 30-foot, 0.6 opacity vegetated buffer, and any tree conservation areas or Neuse River buffers that fall within that buffer could be counted towards the vegetation requirement. But we think that those 2 zoning conditions in concert help to preserve privacy both at the ground level and also from the overhead component as well. As mentioned, the place type map designation recommends a variety of housing types. We are proposing a mix of townhomes and apartments, primarily apartments here. And as mentioned, this request is consistent with the place type map. So just to summarize, we are looking to rezone 16.5 acres that's split between Wake County and Durham County from rural residential and residential suburban 10 to PDR 25. Again, facilitating a townhouse and apartment community with the conditions that are in your packet, as well as the 2 conditions that we have proffered this evening. Myself, Mr. Zumwalt are here to answer any questions, and we appreciate your time this evening.
Thank you. I have a Lyle Overcash. Is he with the development team that signed up on this?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Lyle?
Yes, that's our traffic engineer.
Okay.
In case you have any transportation questions.
All right, so no one else? Anyone here in the galley that has not signed up that wants to speak on this case? Anyone on the Zoom that wants to speak on this case? Please use the raise your hand function to be recognized. Anyone on the Zoom? All right, this public hearing is now closed. We are now open for commissioner discussion and questions. Commissioner Woke.
I have a question. It might be for staff. So it says that it's not compliant with comprehensive plan policy to protect environmentally sensitive land because there's no commitment to the location of open space. Is that correct?
There is no written condition that designates specific areas for tree protection and conservation, but there is the presence of a Neuse River stream buffer in the southeast corner of our site, and that buffer is represented on that development plan.
Thank you. I also wanted to ask about the affordability. Typically, the 30 years, the requirement for that, and 20% of units within the transit opportunity area is in the comprehensive plan. And then also, you're committing to 35% natives, and could that possibly be bumped up higher than that?
So just to, I'll start with the native species question. Is there a specific percentage that would be adequate to the Planning Commission? I think we're open to suggestions.
I mean, I think 100 would be great.
I think we can do that. On the affordability question, just doing the math, the current condition would result in 12 units of affordability. Are the owner and applicant currently out of the country? And I feel a little hesitant to make any commitments on that front without his input first. If it's the commission's will, we can take another look at those affordability options. But that was where our application has started.
Thank you. Does staff need to hear that proffer again to make note of it?
Sure, you're just increasing the 35% to 100 with the commitment, or all required plantings will be native? There's different variations that people can use.
We would be open to all required plantings being 100% native species to North Carolina.
Okay. I'll work with you on the language, but we have that.
Great.
Thank you. With the affordable housing units, you have 383 multifamily units, so I'm assuming those are apartments and 25 townhouses. Do you plan on putting those 12 units, dividing them amongst, or you just putting them in the apartment units?
I don't think that determination has been made to date as to the location or the building type.
Okay, because I'm assuming that the townhouses are going to be for sale, or are those going to be rental? You don't know yet.
It'll all likely be a rental community.
I'm sorry, I just skipped in front of everybody. You usually don't do that. Commissioner Klopak.
Was I correct to see that there was no data on latest traffic volume in the staff report? Or did I overlook it? Okay. And then I saw that it was 0.6 miles to transit. This is a TOA, lot of intersections here. Is it still walkable? Does anybody know to that transit, even though it's not within the quarter of a mile that the comprehensive plan calls for? Maybe the developer can speak to that, but.
On Google Earth, it doesn't look like there's any sidewalks.
So here's a better overall map.
Is there a lot of sidewalks?
Showing the area. Yeah. And to the best of my knowledge, there are sidewalks along ACC Boulevard, I believe, west of us, and they end just east of the roundabout. So part of our development would be obviously incorporating new sidewalks along our frontage, and we have offered a zoning condition to construct a sidewalk in front of that one property separating our assemblage from the traffic circle, assuming that there is sufficient right-of-way existing today to make those improvements. So that would, I think, materially improve the walkability from this site along Andrews Chapel down through ACC Boulevard and Tonti Way. I can't speak for Corners Parkway as to the safety of that street, but at least as far as ACC Boulevard goes, this is a big piece of sidewalk that will be incorporated into the existing pedestrian network.
Okay. All right, thank you. And also just want to highlight the TOA call out of 20% affordable for 30 years. And for a project of this size, I do have concerns, and I know that you're not able to address it because the project owner's not here, but I do have concerns about both the percentage of the units that are income restricted and the fact that it's not 30 years.
I will certainly relay that to the applicant, and we'll see if there are improvements we can make to that condition. Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. So it looks like several of the schools in this area are approaching capacity. Was a proffer considered to offset the impact on these schools?
I don't believe that we've considered one to date, no, sir.
Would you be open to considering a proffer?
I'd have to work with the planning department on what that looks like and a dollar amount. I would certainly I'm willing to explore that possibility.
Could staff refresh my memory on what the most frequent proffer typically is?
Sure, thank you for the question. There's been like a unspoken formula for 500 per student that exceeds what would be required based on the existing zoning. People or applicants tend to use that type of formula for it, but any commitment to DPS would be considered above and beyond the UDO.
I think at that rate, considering that there's a $177,000 roughly impact per student, that seems like that would be a reasonable consideration.
Well, I can absolutely look into that and continue to work with Mr. Kane on that dollar amount and the condition language.
Thank you.
That's the board's preference.
Absolutely.
Just want to point out that wasn't a suggestion, that was a question. Okay, thank you. Good for that. All right, any other questions? Are we ready to move this case forward? Yes? Everybody good? Okay.
Chair, as it relates to case Z2400012 Brier Creek Multifamily, I make a recommendation that we move this case forward with a favorable recommendation.
Second.
Come on now, any second.
I know, they don't want to leave. All right, it's been moved by Commissioner Cutright and seconded by Commissioner Shigeris to move case Z2400012 Brier Creek multifamily forward with a favorable recommendation. May we have the roll call vote, please?
Chair Cameron?
Yes.
Vice Chair Shigeris?
Yes.
Commissioner Capers?
Yes.
Commissioner Cutright?
Yes.
Commissioner Chakowski?
Yes.
Commissioner Kopak?
No.
Commissioner McIver?
Yes.
Commissioner Piontek?
No.
And Commissioner Woke?
No.
This passes 6-3.
Thank you. All righty, it's 7:19. Yep, I don't think we'll get done in 10 minutes. Will you be done in 10 minutes? Probably? Yeah. All right, let's go. Let's go for it. All right, now we have case Z2400032 East Club at 85. May we have the staff report, please?
Good evening, Chair Cameron, Vice Chair Chigaris, and Commissioners. My name is Peyton Burgess, and I'm in front of you tonight to present Z24032 East Club at 85. The request is for a county rezoning of 13.96 acres from residential, rural, and commercial neighborhood to commercial general with a textual development plan. The existing place type designation is transit opportunity area, but if this rezoning request is approved, staff would recommend a place type map change to suburban commercial. The request would allow for most uses in the commercial general zoning district with some exclusions that I'll list with the text commitments. Again, the existing zoning on the site is residential, rural, and commercial neighborhood. The site is adjacent to planned development residential and more residential, rural, and commercial neighborhood with industrial light and commercial general located not far away. The aerial map shows the general location of the project being at the intersection of East Club Boulevard and I-85. The property is currently designated transit opportunity area on the place type map. The proposed request more closely resembles the suburban commercial place type. This is a summary of text commitments from the project along with the prohibited uses I mentioned earlier. Those are residential uses, vehicle sales, vehicle service, hospitals, cemeteries, mausoleums, columbaria, memorial garden, drive-through facilities, electronic gaming operations, firing range, nightclub or bar, paintball, payday lenders, veterinary clinics, animal hospitals, and kennels. There will be a 6-foot-tall fence for the next door property, 30% of the site to be for tree preservation, with 80% of that adjacent or within the riparian buffer. No disturbance in the 2019 New Hope Wildlife Connectivity Plan corridor, native plantings, and then continued a dedicated right and left turn lanes with tapers, 10-foot concrete shared path, no more than one drive aisle between public right-of-way and the front of a primary structure, the maximum building height of 40 feet, and then site access from East Club Boulevard. Neighborhood meetings were held in accordance with the neighborhood meeting guidelines on September 30th, 2024 and January 16th, 2025. 7 community members attended the first meeting, 12 attended the second. There have been no Durham Rezoning Explorer commitments received in relation to this case. The proposal is not consistent with the place type designation of transit opportunity area, with the proposal not requesting annexation and thus limiting intensity. This request more closely aligns with the suburban commercial place type, and staff would recommend that this designation be changed if the rezoning request is approved. The proposal is consistent with 19 of 22 comprehensive plan policies, and staff and the applicant are available to answer any questions.
Thank you. At this time, the chair is opening the public hearing. May we have the applicant come forward, please?
Good evening, Chair Cameron, members of the Planning Commission. My name is Neil Ghosh. I'm an attorney at the Morningstar Law Group at 700 West Main Street here in Durham. I'm going to just tell you briefly about this project. This is an unusual piece of property, and basically the main story and thing you need to understand about this property is that access is a real issue. Currently, the site can be accessed both from Club Boulevard and kind of from 85. There is essentially, west of the site, there's like an exit off of Club Boulevard that tees into the actual exit ramp for 85. So basically, you'd have to come off Club, go down this faux exit, stop at the exit ramp for 85, wait for that traffic to go by, then you cross over the exit ramp on 85, and you can access the property that way. Well, when we talk to NCDOT about any development for the site, any at all, the requirement from NCDOT is to get rid of that access, which means that there is only one point of access available for this site, and it is on Club Boulevard, and it is very close to the existing interchange. So we don't have an end user in mind for this property, but we know what we don't want it to be, and that is anything which produces any kind of significant traffic. So we've eliminated any type of use that would be intense for traffic purposes. We did have 2 neighborhood meetings. We also eliminated uses which I think would be inconsistent and maybe unsavory with the surrounding residential development. We had 2 neighborhood meetings, and the uses that are kind of left on the table, people generally felt like made sense. I'm not going to try to oversell what's going on here. This is essentially a leftover piece of property, and the owner, which is their right to do, is trying to find a way to use the property in a way that's not going to cause negative impacts to the road network or surrounding property owners. And I think that is how we have styled our rezoning request. So with that, I'll answer any questions that you may have, and thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you. Do we have a sign-up sheet? Almost made it without me asking again. Thank you. All right, so all right. Is there anyone on the Zoom that would like to speak? Anyone in the gallery? I did not ask that. All right, hearing no one, the public hearing is now closed. We are now open for commissioner discussion and questions. Where's your hand? Yeah. Commissioner Wope.
Yes. So I traveled to this property yesterday, and it's in a really weird place. Considering that it has a wildlife corridor and a riparian area, has the owner considered a conservation use? It seems like that makes a lot more sense than trying to stick something on there that has such challenging access.
Well, I can't say that they've considered a conservation use. I can say that, we have looked at the site. I think you've seen there's a significant commitment to tree preservation and also to not impact the corridor. So, we're looking at maintaining those areas. This site is not the best site. There's no question about it. But this person is not trying to maximize and, use every square inch. I'm trying to make some reasonable use of this property. If you went to the site, you may have noticed there is a building on the site. I think it used to be like an upholstery shop or something, but it is abandoned. That building evidently has caused some issues in the neighborhood. It's become a hangout. And so, I think folks are looking for it to be something that isn't going to encourage unsavory behavior, but also, isn't necessarily going to be just like a conservation area, although definitely much of it will be preserved.
Good. Thank you. Commissioner Kopak.
Yeah, I also found this site confusing. I approached it from a couple different sides, and I basically missed it when I was coming off 85 on the exit.
Yeah.
And came up to that gas station around the corner. But like coming at it from the residential side, it seems to me like a more logical connection. And why was residential ruled out for the site?
You can't develop this site in a way that would be consistent with the place type map for residential. As I mentioned, there's only one point of access. It's because the surrounding properties are either developed or they're environmental components. So on roughly 14 acres, the most you could get here is 90 units. And I'm not saying that makes sense for a residential development. I'm just saying technically, the most you could get here is 90 units. It's just not enough for the type of density that is thought of or contemplated for the TOA place type, right? I would be frankly embarrassed to come to this in front of this board and say, we're going for PDR 1.1 on this, but that's ultimately all you can do here because you only get one point of access. There is no connectivity to other parcels.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions? Are you ready to move this case forward? Awesome. May I have a motion, please?
Chair, as it relates to case Z2400032 East Club at 85, I make a recommendation that we move this case forward with a favorable recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Cutright and seconded by Vice Chair Shigaris to move case Z2400032 East Club at 85 forward with a favorable recommendation. May I have the roll call vote, please?
Chair Cameron,
Yes.
Vice Chair Shigaris,
Yes.
Commissioner Capers,
Yes.
Commissioner Cutright,
Yes.
Commissioner Chakowski,
Yes.
Commissioner Kopak,
Yes.
Commissioner McIver,
Yes.
Commissioner Piontek,
Yes.
and Commissioner Woke.
Yes.
Favorable recommendation, 9-0.
Thank you. I don't think we have any committee updates. We don't have, we already moved the new business forward up on the agenda. Do we have any staff announcements? None. This meeting is adjourned. We'll see you in April.